Dude, so Minneapolis, St. Paul has one of the best food scenes I've ever seen in that things are cheap as hell and there's plentiful portions and it tastes delicious, which to me is like I love food, but I'm not like a foodie in the sense that I want a small plate that cost me $60, right? Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah. And so Minneapolis, every time I've been there, I'm like, what do you mean I get a pitcher of beer and a pitcher of chicken wings and I paid $10, $15 or whatever? Yeah. Yeah. What up, Nick Weber?
What
Hello.
up?
What's up? How y'all doing?
Hey, good. Just
Good,
talking about
Michael.
the. Nice to meet you as well. We're just talking about the food scene in Minneapolis and how uh,
Oh yeah,
the bang for your buck you basically get.
Yeah.
dude. Yes, I
And
love
it's
Minneapolis.
it's a it's I don't know how I feel about this sometimes, but it's like it reinforces like a really fun social version of alcoholism. Like, like
Yeah.
we're all just like getting shit faced on a Tuesday, but
Yeah.
it's a good vibe. Yeah, that's been my friends anytime I've visited Minneapolis. I'm like, oh, you to survive the winters, you have to do this.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. My only question for the two of you is, do you happen to have an unopened beverage that you like to participate in the opening crack with?
Montucky. I do have one.
I have
Hell
upwards
yeah.
of two Montuckies to drink.
Oh baby, I have this upslope New Zealand style IPA, which
I
we
don't even
just
know what
kind
that
of
means. I know what upslope
Yeah.
is. I don't know what New Zealand IPA means.
yeah. I don't know. Apparently the water is from snowmelt, which feels special. And has New Zealand hops. So I had one the other night and it tasted like an IPA. So
Yeah.
What more can you want?
how about you,
All
Michael?
right. I have some Modelo's with me tonight.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was gonna do some Colt 45s, but then I forgot that I left them in the car all day.
Nice. No, you don't
I
want that.
bought them on Saturday and remembered that they were in there today on my drive
They just
home from
straight
That's
up
a,
work, and I was like,
exploded.
that's a
thankfully
sound
not.
gas Colt
It's
45.
getting yeah, it's getting cooler out, so like they didn't
Okay.
explode. But I was like, oh man, now I can't drink those tonight. I mean, I
Bummer.
it hasn't stopped me before, but
Yeah.
I like
Are
to
you
drink
rocking
cold.
Especial or the Negra?
Especial.
Yeah. Very
Yeah.
nice.
Remind me to tell you guys my Colt 45 story about my buddy Dave Smith.
Okay, hell yeah. All right, so what I'll do is I'll count us in. We'll crack these, and then I'll do the little intro, bring the two of you in, and we'll just have a good time.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
All right, in three, two, one. Welcome to the Beers with Bands podcast with your host Michael Torres. What is up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Beers with Bands. Very stoked to be having this band on the podcast after so long. I'm sitting down with A Place for Owls. How y'all doing?
Good, man. Thanks
Super
for having
good.
us, Michael.
Yep.
That's awesome.
Dude, of course. I mean, like we said before we fully started, like this is I feel like one that's kind of been a long time coming to finally have A Place for Owls on. So I'm really stoked to be a part of this release cycle and everything that you guys have going on. Also, like this album is so sick and so in your feels, but we'll get to that in just a second. Before we get too far, can you go around and say who you are and what you do in A Place for Owls?
I'm Ben Soy. I'm the primary songwriter and lead singer of A Place for Us. I also play rhythm guitar, and I've played a guitar solo once, I think, on record. But guitar, and then yeah, that's me.
Nice. I'm Nick Weber. I play keys and guitar and sing harmonies and do production sometimes, but not on this record.
And Nick has played many guitar solos
I've
for
played
Else.
numerous guitars. Just kidding.
And then I know we are missing a few members. Who are they, and what do they do in A Place for Owls?
So Jesse Cowan is our drummer. He also plays sick guitar solos as well on he plays for Al's Records. And he also is our in-house engineer and producer. He's Nick and Jesse kind of share production duties whenever we're like the first record, LP1, we recorded all ourselves, and Jesse and Nick tracked it. Nick mixed the whole thing. And then Ryan Day is our bass player. He also plays sick guitar solos on our albums. And then Dan Perez is our lead guitarist and does background vocals and sick guitar solos. So Dan's mostly our sick guitar solos guy. But
Yeah.
everybody in a place for Al's,
Everyone plays guitar.
everyone plays guitar.
Is it like a requirement that you have to at least be able to do one sick guitar solo?
Yeah, it kind of is. Like there's that that one Beatles song in the end where literally all three of the George, Paul, and John play a guitar solo on that song. So we've got a little bit of like it's not a friendly rivalry, but we like guitar solos a lot. And in emo music, there's more room for riffs than there are guitar
That's
solos. And
true.
so
Yeah.
we like the opportunity to do that. And the running gag in our band is that our drummer and our bass player are the best guitar players in our
Yeah,
band.
that's true.
I think Nick and I play guitar so that we can sing and like write songs. It's
Yeah,
like more functional than just like, but I think we've all being in a band together have gotten better at guitar together
yeah,
and
for sure.
love to learn, like riffs and sick riffs and stuff.
One more question about these sick guitar solos though. Like, so does it only do members only do them during the recordings, or is there times where like someone comes out from behind a kit and just rips a sick guitar
Dude,
solo
I
during a
remember
show and then sits back down?
I
Yeah.
remember talking about doing that one time, and Jesse was just like, "That's just a logistical nightmare for me." I was like, "I can probably learn how to do your drum part," and he was like, "No."
No, no.
That would be
Yeah,
so sick though.
Yeah.
On it,
yeah.
like the bands with like the rotating kind of cast, where it's just like, oh, they're all playing a different instrument now.
Yeah, I
Um,
think eventually if we basically entered our weirdo like freak folk phase like
mhm.
after like the next record, I think we could have more stage tomfoolery where we like
Yeah.
throw like
Yeah, there you
trade
go.
bass and guitar and just do that stuff. Right now,
Well,
we're pretty static.
it's like a lot
Yeah.
of times too, we're like opening for bands, and we just want to be like so punchy and respectful, and just be like we're gonna execute. There's gonna be almost no silence. Like as little talking as we can manage, like and just like respectfully fill our slot,
Yeah, yeah.
That's very commendable to do that, because like there are times where I'll go see a band and it's just like I get you have to tune, but having breaks in between bunches of like every song, like
Uh,
it's difficult, man.
Yeah.
yes,
We
it
and
is.
we use a stupid amount of alternative guitar tunings too. And
Yeah,
so how we've coped with that is that we have guitar pedals basically that we can punch and then it starts making noise. So
Mm,
the noise like is happening while we're like switching guitars or retuning the guitar or whatever.
just like an ambient kind of vibe.
Yeah,
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 yeah. Or somebody else who doesn't have to tune is like playing music while the other person does. I just hate the dead silence and
yeah.
then
oh,
It's like one of
every
our band pet peeves. Like we do not want to put the audience through like any moment of awkwardness during our set. It's
right.
just
yeah.
like just want to rip the whole time.
Well,
Yeah,
and then like it just kills the vibe because you start to get into this flow with the band, and then as like there's one band I saw. It's been a while since I've seen them, but like they had a killer first song, and I'm like, okay, hell yeah, first time seeing them, and
yeah,
then it was just like tuning, and it's just kind of like a really like awkward joke, and then like they played the second song, I'm like kind of getting back into it, and then like they had
yeah.
a tune again, and I was like, it's just killing the entire vibe of
No,
like your set, and I wanted to enjoy it. Like this,
yeah,
like the songs themselves are still good, and I was just like, man, like I get it's rough
totally.
sometimes, but you know, and this is also coming from someone that doesn't play guitar, so no one come at me. Like I get guitars like get attitude, but like
No,
The
yeah,
audience perspective is the most important, I think.
yeah,
Yeah,
you're right to say that. That's I think more bands we all sort of rely on our like awkward stage banter, and none of it is ever good. No one who is
Few of
ever,
us are actually comedians.
yeah, yeah, no one who has ever like talked between songs has actually ever said anything meaningful or funny in the history of
Right.
bands.
Yeah.
Oh, that's the first tangent for this episode. I'm really stoked to see where this is going to go. I
Yeah.
forgot to mention earlier, tangents are totally down
Sick.
for me, so I always
We're
love to see
so
where those
good
go.
at
Yeah,
talking a lot
we're going to
about
be
unrelated things.
uh, for people that might not have checked out Place for Owls before, y'all are like an alternative rock emo band from Denver. First EP was in 2020 called "You Are Still in Every Song I Sing," and then you followed it up with your self-titled LP that we've kind of mentioned and hinted at in 2022, and we have LP2 coming out. Well, at the time of this recording, it's not out yet. By the time this episode comes out, it will have been out for a week already, called How We Dig in the Earth. For people that are just now finding Place for Owls, I think this is the perfect time to get into a Place for Owls. You have a lot, like, it's still early enough in, like, the discography where you're not missing too much and everything's
Mm.
already out, and you can easily find it and just encapsulate yourself in it and just go with this flow. Is it kind of crazy? I know we're about to talk about it, but is it kind of crazy that we're already like LP2? Like, I mean, it's
Yeah.
4 years since EP1. Like, we're already here. Does it feel a little crazy to think that?
Yeah, we have historically been people who just sort of like labor over songs for years. It actually we started, I forget the timeline, but we essentially started tracking EP1 and LP1 around the same time. And
Oh wow.
it took us 2 years. And the reason why we even released EP1 is because it was acoustic and it was like little like minimal production on it. We're like, let's put the simplest version of ourselves out there, just to kind of, when you're a band, you kind of have to snowball all these things, right? So
Hmm.
you gotta make a little bit of a wave, and then you get that into your next thing, which makes more waves, and then you get that into your next thing. And so honestly, two albums and some singles and one EP in 4 years feels ridiculous. It's kind of a miracle that anybody releases
Yeah.
music like,
Yeah.
yeah, Nick, how do you feel?
Yeah, it is kind of surreal. It feels like we haven't been doing this for very long for some reason. But then yeah, I guess it is already like what over 4 years. It's like yeah, which is kind of a chunk of time. It's kind of crazy because on a certain level, it feels like we're always just kind of getting started, but maybe that's just like the disappearing horizon of like, I don't know. Because like pretty much every step of the band is like way more than we ever thought would ever
Hmm.
happen. So it kind of keeps getting like new life all the time, it feels like, in a way.
Well, yeah, because I feel like not. I mean, not to dig too much into like the origin story if you don't want to go down that route, but like I feel like the band itself was just kind of put together just because someone. How was it like? Someone just there was a spot that needed to be filled on a show or something like that. It was just a quick thing that came together.
We've been jamming for a while. The core of like me and Jesse, our drummer, have been jamming for like since like 2018. And then Nick and I knew each other from I used to help run a nonprofit in Denver, and Nick was one of my volunteers with his
Mhm.
girlfriend. And so we knew each other just through like we were doing shit together. And then can I cuss? Is that okay?
Yeah,
Is that
yeah, you're good.
okay? Cool. uh, and then Dan, who's in the band, Dan and I have been friends for almost 20 years. So we grew up together basically. And so this project, we all of us, Nick's a little bit younger, but all of us were like in our 30s when the project sort of came together.
Yeah.
And it was kind of one of those like last ditch of like, I did the band thing when I was like in my teens and 20s, and no band ever like got any notice. Nobody ever gave one shit about it. And then we were just like, let's just put a band together just for the love of the game, basically. Like
Yeah.
let's just do it because we like songs and recording, and our expectations were super low. We were like,
Yeah.
no one's gonna listen. And then really we put out our EP and nobody cared. And then really what the watershed moment was when I took over the A Place for Owls Twitter. So Jesse had like created an A Place for Owls Twitter like in 2020 when we first put out our record,
Yeah.
and but posted never. And then I took over the Place for Owls Twitter, and I just started being an absolute goober online and talking about bands that I like, and like, but then doing the thing that every emo band does. The last couple of days, everybody's tweeting at Dale Earnhardt Jr.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? But it's the strategy that emo bands have to take, which is you tweet at someone who's famous or a bigger band than you or whatever, and you're just like, hey, please, for the love of God, check out my music. I'm so desperate for attention, please, you know. And so we just did that. We basically um, almost every good opportunity that we've had as a band has come from just twitter.com, which is a ridiculous
Yeah. It's kind of the
situation.
hub. Yeah.
Yeah. And
What?
that's not everybody's story that is successful in music, but that's been our story, is like
Yeah.
we just are goofballs and try to be kind in general online and talk about bands that we really like and try to actually create community with other bands and artists that we really like. And then it's fun that like since we've like gone on tour a couple times, and like some of those online relationships have turned into like real life friendships,
Yeah.
right?
Totally.
Where
Yeah.
like Elliot Green from Seattle, tremendous singer-songwriter.
Hmm.
Um, she sang on LP2, How We Dig in the Earth. And that was all because we connected with her
Yeah.
over Twitter, and we played together when we toured through Seattle. And it just like those online friendships eventually became like, oh, these are our like buds and collaborators
Yeah.
and all that.
Yeah, like I was talking to someone the other day. Um, I don't remember how we got on the topic of Twitter, but then they were like, "Oh, I'm surprised you're still on Twitter because outside of this DIY like music
Yeah.
community that's on there, Twitter is kind of like this still this cesspool that's just like
Oh
ridiculous
yeah.
Exactly.
ever since who took it over. But
Yeah.
if it wasn't for this music community that's there, like this podcast probably wouldn't be where it's at. Like you said, like a
Yeah.
place for owls probably wouldn't be where it's at. And it's just really cool to see this community always be so hyped to like build each other up.
Yeah.
And it's also nice to hear like you didn't blow up from TikTok. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but like I feel like when you do like have to do a TikTok video repeatedly, you kind of lose a part of your soul.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But when you can do like the same just nonsense shit posting on Twitter
Yeah.
Yeah.
and like find your community easily that way.
And
Yeah.
so I think it's the reason why TikTok has never clicked for me is that there's no sense of back and forth community. It's
Mm,
only just marketing. It's just like, here's my video, and then you consume it.
right.
And that's not why I got into music in the first place. I got into music
Yeah.
primarily because I needed friends and I wanted a girlfriend. And I like had this, like I had this like internal spark in me that was like, there's something going on that is not satisfied by just showing up to school or to work or like whatever. Like
Hmm.
there's something bigger going on inside of me that music taps into, and that's always a communal thing. So all my best friends are people that I've met through playing music, or people that I
Hmm.
play music with, right? And so there's something almost communal and mystical that happens with music that I think the TikTokification of the music industry is like, people maybe consume your music in 30-second clips or whatever, but you don't know their names. You don't know who they are, or like why your music matters to them. And that's the shit that really makes me excited to play shows, is people who show up to those shows. They're like, when music means something to you, you feel connected to the artist, even if you've never
Hmm.
met each other.
Mm,
And we're all just trying to belong somewhere. And music is where
Yeah.
personally I've found my most sort of primary sense of belonging. And why wouldn't we just go out and be like belonging bringers to like other people who are trying to just fit in somewhere, right? And
Hmm.
just Twitter's not perfect, you're right. but like Twitter feels more like that than something like even Instagram or TikTok or whatever, where it's like you just show up primarily to market yourself, but it's not a back and forth of community.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And everyone go join the DIY Twitter.
That's
You
right.
find
Yeah.
Place for
Yeah.
Owls, you'll find everyone else that's there.
That's right.
Because it's really cool too, just to see like how, like, I probably joined that like version of Twitter probably like 2020 with like the podcast, and like it's cool to see like just
Yeah.
where it was then to like where it is now,
Yeah.
and just everyone that's kind of a part of it, and just like how it's so intertwined. Um,
Yeah.
but you made a you made a pretty funny point where you wanted to get into music to kind of get a girlfriend and get some friends, and you've accomplished that. Obviously, with this record that we're going to talk about called "How We Dig in the Earth." Granted, there is some harshness. Like I kind of mentioned this earlier. Like I listened to both the self-titled and this pretty much all day today. Started in the morning listening to self-titled, and then kind of finished the day leading up to this listening to the LP2.
Awesome.
And I don't have any tissues on my desk, and I should have had tissues on my desk. Like just trying to do work and just trying to like figure out who hurt you in the kindest ways. Like it's such they're both. I mean, it's also I feel like the tone that you guys are playing it just automatically has those kind of vibes. But like
Yeah.
it's very. I'm trying to think of the right word. It's very open and like real than anything else that I feel like I've been listening to lately. And in such a good way, and to put that emotionalness out there, like very commendable. Yeah, like they're two solid records, and like this I feel like is a straight up good follow up from LP1.
Thank you.
Cool. Thanks, man.
I won't name who because it feels always weird to like brag about like who praised your band or whatever. This is a weird
Yeah.
thing to say. But what you just said made me think of we've been sending the record out to like friends or in bands or whatever. So one of our friends from another really good band um said, I know that we're in the emo scene, but you are one of the only bands that could actually consistently make me cry. It's like it was, and to me, I'm like that's fucked up, but that's kind of the highest praise that you can bring. That you're
Yeah.
like actually that you're actually making you're making an environment where someone can really get in touch with themselves. We go through so many
Yeah.
uh our culture like teaches us to sort of ignore our true selves and just sort of like fly by at 100 miles per hour and not even notice what's going on internally with us. And
Right.
that's what the gifts of music is, that like it can catch you sideways and then start to like actually, you use the word open, like
That's
openness,
a
like
cool word. I like
yeah,
that.
it is. Yeah. And it clicks with me because it's like that's how we try to be as a community, is just as open and like tender as possible to our lives
Yeah.
and to each other. But then that's what we want out of the music, is that like people can, yeah, there's riffs and it's a lot of things about it is fun, and it's like still in emo music, which has the tropes of like twinkly guitar and like acoustic, bangers or whatever. But like
Hmm.
um the if you can sort of, not in a manipulative way in a bad sense, but if you can sort of essentially kind of sneak up on someone and say like, gotcha, bitch, like you're actually you're actually gonna feel your real feelings that you have that you're trying to ignore. I think
Yeah.
that is like a service, and that's one of the things that like
Yeah.
Mineral or Jimmy Eat World or Kara Kara or any of these
Yeah.
bands that just like rip me a new one, emotionally, like they're 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 doing me a favor when they do it. And so Michael, when you say that, I'm like I'll take
That's
that as
sick.
a compliment,
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, dude.
Well, like just one thing too is like so a lot of the bands in like the emo scene, they're they have that really like pop punk or like riffiness with the guitars, but like the way that you guys kind of do it too is your instrumentals aren't so in the front where you can actually understand the lyrics so far
Yeah.
off the first run.
Yeah.
Where like a lot of bands I go to listen to, like I'll listen to a song 5 times, and it won't be until like listen through 6 where I'm like, okay, I'm picking up on the lyrics and fully
Yeah.
like getting and digesting them and like understanding what's going on.
Yeah.
And you turn this on and it's just immediately like, oh, like I get it already. Like, oh
Yeah,
fuck, like I did.
totally.
What did I sign up for right now?
Yeah.
Like in the best way, obviously.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
And like there are moments where like I've listened to Free Throw, and
Yeah.
wanted to cry because who hasn't? But at the same time,
Yeah.
2 beers in kicks on. I'm already 6 beers in, so like I'm already like having a depressed time, anyways.
Yeah, exactly.
This no beers in, I was like, man, they're getting those daytime sober feelings right out.
That's awesome. I love
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, we try to one of my favorite bands is Frightened Rabbit. Do you know this band at all?
No.
So they're more sort of in the world of like indie rock. They're a Scottish band. Um the lead singer, dealt with mental illness and pain and suffering his entire life, and they're mostly acoustic. They're like they've got drums, and they're sometimes fun, but it's probably one of the most brutal. If you're actually listening to the lyrics, it's probably one of the most brutal listens that you'll have.
Yeah, it's pretty intense.
But I'm like, but I put them on to have fun, and I don't know what is messed up about me that that I do that, right? Like I'm dancing to like, backwards walk, where he's talking about a relationship that he can't get away from, and it's this one of the saddest songs I've ever heard. But it's like there's somebody said that sadness and joy are not opposites. They're actually like close to each other. There's
Mm.
a there's a kind of joy
Yeah.
feels like sadness, and there's a kind of sadness that feels like joy, right? and
Yeah.
and that's the closest that I've gotten to like God.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
that's the closest that I've gotten to like, oh, something real is going on here, is that sort of sadness joy combo. So anyways, it's not everybody's cup of tea. Not everybody wants to sign up for an existential crisis on
Yeah.
the afternoon, but
I think like also we're not just it was honestly difficult for because Ben was like writing these songs out of a tough time and then was kind of like this like it feels good to write these and good to like play them together, but he's like I don't know if I want to share these
Mm.
necessarily. So that in and of itself was kind of a journey. Because it's like I don't know, there's like an anxiety where it's like I don't want people to hear this and be like this band is just trying to destroy me. Like they wrote these songs to make me sad. And it's like that's absolutely not what we're trying to do, you know? And so far, like literally nobody has ever said that. But there is an anxiety of like it's like we're not just trying to like yeah, write the most depressing shit we can possibly come up with. It's just like
it's
I
but
think
it's
it just comes out of catharsis a lot of
it
times.
Yeah.
is, and it's the realness of what you want, of like your sadness and your yeah, your sadness and your hope for something better are sort of side by side, right?
Yeah.
Hmm.
So one of the things that we don't try to tie a bow on anything, but like when we write honest songs, we try to honestly represent what beauty and sorrow looks like, and what hope and actual like things can and will. Like one of my big things that I just have to say to myself, because I have clinical depression, is like I have to say it's likely that things will get better than this. It is
Yeah.
inevitable. I have to almost like kind of gaslight myself sometimes,
It
where I'm
has well, it has gotten better every time that you've
it
been.
has gotten better every time. Exactly right. My life has only gotten better. And it is probably inevitable that my life will continue to get better. And so, but one of the things that depression does is it like kind of sucks you into the present moment, where you're like, nothing's ever gonna be better. Like it's only gonna get worse, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you just have to remind yourself. And sometimes that's like facing your worst fears through music is like kind of a part of that for me at least, it's part of my own process of really sort of evaluating where I'm at in life and what I want out of life is through music. And
Yeah.
so a lot of them were catchy, and we're like, okay, let's put it on a record. Sure, why not? Who cares?
Now, obviously, not like I don't want to dive too deep into backstory unless you're comfortable with it, that's up
Yeah.
to you. But you know, like we've kind of mentioned, a lot of this was written during a rough point in your life.
Yeah.
You know, you bring it to the band. Like Nick, what was your initial thought when like Ben brought this and was like, "Hey, I have these songs from like
Mhm.
what was your initial thought like when
Yeah,
he brought this to the table?"
man, it was like a long time ago now, but so the song Hourglass. So the first three songs Ben wrote like within like basically a week of like one of the worst weeks of like he and his wife's life together. And I was like on a ski trip or something. Like I was snowboarding in like Utah, I think. And I remember listening. No, it's when Jesse sent us the demos. So we did a band practice and we just like bashed out all these songs basically and just like recorded like our first like full take of all of them. And we were playing like so loud and so I don't know, just kind of like wheels off. Um, like it was kind of the most like sort of hardcore adjacent stuff we had ever recorded up to that point. And so I was just like, I don't know. It felt like kind of group catharsis a little bit, where it's just like it felt like a way that I could be a good friend to Ben was just to like, and I like loved the song as soon as I heard the voice memo. So, and I think we all, yeah, I can speak for us all. Um, And yeah, so like doing a full band arrangement was almost like this is like one of the best things I can probably do for Ben right now is like absolutely crush my part in this arrangement. And
So,
uh yeah, so it felt like good and it felt right. And then we probably sat with those specific songs for like at least a year before we kind of committed to putting them on like the full length record. So um
We
and
were
that was
originally
mostly kind of in Ben's camp. We're like, it's kind of up to you, man. Like, we think that there's like a compelling record here, but like, obviously, you have to be cool with putting this out there and even
yeah.
like performing them over and over again at the end of the day. So,
and it
yeah,
something shifted in me where like it was I could not play those songs. Like I would just have a visceral reaction of like I don't think I can go back there, you know.
yeah,
Um, because it was basically it's basically like my wife and I have been trying to have kids for a couple years, and then we went through a miscarriage, and we got pregnant, and it was like absolutely jazzed, but then just we lost the pregnancy, and which was probably some of the most brutal, you know, sort of like why, you know,
Mhm.
and so we were originally like, all right, it's because I'm a big proponent of songwriting as a process is good for you, even if those songs never see the light of day. Like
mm,
you're going to be helped, and that's any creative process for me. Like
yeah,
people just need to be creative as a way to just be human beings, right?
Yep.
And we sort of bring in this sort of like capitalist mindset of like this is only the creative process is only going to be worthwhile if I make money off this or like make clout off this or other people like it. And
mm,
it's basically just like, no, man, like I write songs all the time that I'm like, those are bangers, but those are not for that's not for other people. That's for me, you know?
Mhm.
yeah,
And so that was these songs, especially the first like four songs that are on the record, were probably in that category of like this may be a song that we worked on together and we love them and they're good, but we're just not going to put them out because it's too tender or whatever. And
yeah,
then we were thinking there was a shift, and then we're like, what if we just did the saddest EP we've ever done and just did these four songs and just put them out? And then we started writing other songs after the fact that sort of you take you through a story of it. The later songs like sort of reframed how you even relate to the older songs that were like
Mhm.
heavier. And so by the time you get to the end of the record, and the album is roughly chronological of how I
yeah,
wrote those songs. So it's kind of like the story of my life over a year. And by the end of the song, you're like, we've got songs that are more fun and more like about friendship and about like my wife and I sort of like moving forward, not feeling stuck, in this sort of like
Yeah.
pain moment. And the more that we just sort of kind of viewed those songs as a story, we're like, I'm not the first and only person to feel stuck in pain or some sort of tragedy. And we can essentially kind of throw these out there, not only because we're proud of the songs artistically, but like we can throw those out there to essentially, in the same way that like I needed albums to give me a roadmap for how to process my own emotions. It's like
Mhm.
we can maybe just like throw it out there that like if there's somebody else that it doesn't even have to be the same situation, but if somebody
Right.
else has been through a great disappointment and needs to figure out how to survive that, because that's the thing that depression lies to you about, is that you're never going to get move on from this, you're never going to get better,
Mhm.
life's never going to be better, which is fucked up. It's satanic, that message, right?
Mhm.
And so we can, by kind of like throwing these songs out there, just like maybe attempt to just give other people a roadmap for like, hey, you're not going to be there forever. You need to face what happened to you and then move not beyond it, in the sense that you, like, my wife and I feel marked in a good way by that experience. We feel more unified with each other. We feel more emotionally tender and connected to each other. We've also got an emotional tenderness to when we meet somebody else who's been through a painful experience, especially the more we've been talking about miscarriage. Just happen that shit happens all the time, man. People don't talk about it. And so like there's hope that happens on the other side of pain if you use your pain in the right way, right? And so that maybe feels a little bit like a little bit too on the nose to say, but I think like our intention as a band is we need to make music ourselves, but like we need to invite other people into how do you healthily like deal with your own emotional states and all the weird things that and unideal things that happen to you.
Right. Yeah.
But there's guitar riffs, and I think a lot of people will like it too. I'm not trying to just be like, you're gonna be destroyed, but it's a fun record in
Yeah.
a certain point of view. If you look at it from a
Yeah. No, yeah, it's a solid record throughout, and like
yeah,
I like how you at least let the people know like there is kind of like this kind of light at the end of the tunnel at the end of this record where it's not just completely
Yeah.
sad throughout. It's like there is that kind of like little bit of hope and closure throughout.
right.
Yeah.
As even though the tone might be a little sadder than most, but like it's still such a good record that I hope everyone listens to. And I
Thanks, man.
know
Thanks, man.
with this, you guys are taking a big leap and pressing it and releasing it you guys yourself
That's right.
through Broom of Destruction Records,
That's
as you guys are
darn right.
calling it. Uh, uh, what like I know LP1 that was what you guys released that through. Was that Refresh or We're Trying?
So we originally released it digitally just ourselves and did not do any vinyl, or we paid for a small run of like CDs for the first
Yeah.
record. But then we worked with Refresh to do the vinyl, which
Right.
we were really pleased. That's essentially sold out at this
That was
point.
awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And we did what, 300? It was like it
I think so.
so it went well. We liked work. We love the guys at Refresh, and
Yeah.
Yeah.
Josh
we've
is awesome.
there's no like bad blood or anything. But we just felt like, hey, if we're gonna take this seriously ourselves, can we essentially build the infrastructure to be able to put out records ourselves? And
Yeah.
so we've always kind of jokingly called our record label when we self-release stuff Broom of Destruction, but it wasn't a real record label until like this year. Um, and so we're doing vinyl, we're doing CD, and we're financing all that ourselves and doing pre-orders that like people can get it on compact disc or on vinyl record. There's like 3 people that are online asking for cassette tapes, and I don't think that's a critical mass enough to like
I want a cassette tape.
yeah, I know Nick is a cassette head,
I'll
and so
make one.
yeah, yeah, we'll just
Just
bootleg.
boot it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, yeah,
Boot our own record.
yeah. But it's we have started to develop the skill set as a band community to like figure out how can we make the band pay for the next thing that the band needs to do, instead of the way that most bands work is like you just are constantly pumping in money to it. Like you're in the
Right.
individual members are just fronting money for shit. We've tried to we never make any money from the bands as individuals, but
Mm.
any money that we make, we just throw back into the band fund, and then that pays for the next thing
Yeah.
that we do. And so we had the privilege to like play some pretty big shows in the last year where we're opening for Switchfoot on 3 dates, and we're opening for May on 3 dates. And we've sold merch at those shows, thank God. And so we
Literally the first Switchfoot show we played in Denver, like the t-shirts we sold at that show and like the check we took just from ticket sales, pretty much like we couldn't have paid for the first record with
yeah,
or
those
sorry,
Switch
the new record without
Yeah,
that
so
show.
so
That's
we
amazing.
we did not record this record ourselves. We worked with one of our heroes who's a producer and engineer in Colorado, a guy called Dave Wilton, who he's been a big deal for us for a long time.
Mhm.
He's got an indie band called A Boy and His Kite. He was on one of the Twilight movie soundtracks, and he's just sort of like he's like legendary within certain circles in sort of like
Yeah,
the folk and indie rock community
and he's got a
in
good set of
Colorado.
ears.
And he's probably the most intuitive musician and
Yeah.
producer that I've ever met. And so he basically approached us, which was the kind of messed up thing, where it was
That was
like,
messed up.
yeah, it's like, how could you do it? He's like our hero, and you know that we love him. And he was like, I want to work with you. And I was thinking about doing a solo record at the time. And I was like, oh yeah, I've got all these folk songs. Because I think about Dave as like a folk producer, because he works with like Gregory Alan Isaacoff, which is like a big folk guy. He works with some of these like tremendous bands. And I was like, yeah, I'm maybe thinking about this folk. And he goes, yeah. No. I want to I want to work with A Place for Owls. I want to do a guitar rock record. And through our friendship, I basically discovered that he's like a real emo head. Like
He's an emo guy.
he's got posters up on his wall in his studio of Sunny Day Real Estate and Jimmy Eat World, and like he just like
Mhm.
he was able to talk the talk of like the common language of like we're like, hey, let's make it sound more like a Mineral song. And he would be like, yeah, totally.
He
You know,
bought
like
Ben an Anorak tape like on the first time they like hung out. Yeah.
basically, yeah, like this is the first time we're kind of becoming friends. And he was like, I saw you. This is my Dave impression. He's a real gentle, soft-spoken dude. And he's like, I saw you post online about this Japanese emo band called Anorak. And I just listened to him and I just loved them. So they did a limited run of cassettes and I got you one of them. Do you have a cassette player at home? It's like, and I was like, this is my best friend. I love you so much.
So awesome.
Yeah. So, anyways, we paid him money, like still a friend rate, but we paid him real money, American dollars, to record this to record this record. And the only way that we were able to pay Dave Wilton to make the record is because we played 3 dates with Switchfoot. So
Mhm.
shout out John and Tim Foreman from Switchfoot for
Dude, yeah, that
basically paying for the next
so
record.
huge. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if anyone's listening, this is when bands say, "Hey, if you're at a show, buy our merch. It goes a long way." This
Yes.
is how far it can go.
It is the
and-
way to like make any kind of
yeah,
money.
like because a lot of people think like, oh, bands are playing all these shows all the time. Like they're definitely like splitting money. Every band that I know, they might keep like $20 to buy a case of beer for the band,
Yeah.
but the rest of it just goes right into the band fund, like you guys were saying, and
Yeah.
it'll pay for new shirts,
Yep.
possible CDs and vinyl if they decide to go that route, or new gear, or just like anything that they need
Yeah.
band wise. Because a lot of bands
Yep.
are also just putting in so much of their own money where like
brutal.
it's rough. You need that little bit of offset with the band fund to kind of make it worth it.
And
Absolutely.
most, like everybody talks about like nepotism babies or like people who are like fake industry plants or whatever of like, well, what we're talking about is just like they're independently wealthy. And so they can fund and focus on music as a full-time. You don't have to have a day job, so you can just focus on music full-time. And we sometimes under capitalism get into this false like let's hate those guys. And it's like, no, we should hate the system. The
Yeah.
reality is that like those guys, just because they're independently wealthy or come from wealthy parents, they're able to do the thing that you and we actually want to do.
Yeah,
Like
Yeah.
totally.
if I didn't have to work a day job, like that would
Right.
actually be sick, and I could create and myself and then support other, like I dream about like what if our record label actually became a real record label to where we were able
Yeah,
to help support other artists in genuine ways. And it's
totally.
like, no, like I'm not going to be jealous over these poor saps that are just like industry plants or whatever. But it's like the reality is that if you are poor and you feel called to do art and music, the only way to do that is by making yourself more poor by doing it, right? And so like, but we need to, we need to sort of, yes, create a world where fans are actually buying merch and fans are like, if you've got a Patreon or whatever, like fans are actually putting up the $5 to $25 a month to support the artists that they like. Uh,
Yeah.
there's ways that in the system that we have, we can make it better for working artists, but also can we just create a better fucking system
Yeah.
Yeah.
so that like
It's all
yeah,
swimming upstream,
yes,
even if
Yep.
you have like, because I don't know. And yeah, you see a ton of this on Twitter, just like fans who, yeah, they like buy a ton of merch. And like, there's people who just have just given us money, like asking nothing in return,
yeah,
like no digital purchase, no, they're like, can I just send you money?
yeah,
It's like, yeah, sure.
yeah.
Like that. I don't know. There's a lot of just like generous folks out there who like really get this, and yeah. Well, Ben and I were talking the other day that it's important for artists to remember this too, like to be uh, a patron yourself as an artist. Yeah, which and again, there's
It's
a lot of this going on Twitter,
yeah.
which is one of the very sweet things about it.
Yeah.
It's morally praiseworthy to
It
support
is.
people on Bandcamp. And it's like
Yes.
morally praise. It's like every time I spend $15 on somebody's album or spend 25 to $30 on a t-shirt, either at a show or for a band online that I really like, I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm literally, this is, like when I've been flush with cash, like there's like whenever I've had more money than in other seasons in my life, I'm just like, I have to become the sort of person who does not get stingy with that. And
Yeah.
if music is made by somebody that I really actually really love, the best thing that I could do to them is just send them $15 for a CD or
Totally.
$25 for a t-shirt. And it's like this, I'm not going to miss that money. But for the
Yeah.
artist, the critical mass of enough people doing that can literally change their life, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's ebbs and flows like to when you're even able to like give in that way, like
Yeah.
um yeah, like I've been there and I totally and probably will be there again and I totally get it. It's like you're not gonna be able to throw around like there's gonna be times where you're just saving or whatever,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
like it's just like as an artist, experience is such a gift when like whenever like I don't know, I had Bandcamp artist notifications on when we like dropped the pre-order stuff for LP2, and it was like super encouraging just to see that people were like actually ordering the record when we announced
Yeah,
it,
we got that first weekend, and this is maybe not a big deal to other bigger bands, but it's like we got 20, 25, 30
Yeah.
That's
pre-ordered.
good.
Yeah,
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 it was really encouraging, yeah, because
yeah.
it's like you haven't heard practically any of it, like one
Right.
song
One
maybe.
song. Yeah,
Yeah, so that that feels huge, yeah, to
Yeah.
like
yeah,
And to
have people
think
trust you that way.
that's the 25 people that at that time also had the funds to be able to do that.
Hmm.
Like I'm sure that the number would be, double or triple of like if everyone all had like the same amount of money to spend, that number could definitely go higher.
Yeah,
So like that's
yeah, for real.
those are good signs.
and there's like
I
a
know like
million things you could spend your money on that's like
right.
I don't know, it's meaningful.
Like one thing I'm really stoked on is I recently got a promotion at work.
Hell yeah.
Aside
Yeah.
from that, like I'm really stoked to kind of finally for the last year I haven't really bought a lot of records.
Yeah.
So I'm really stoked to kind of
Hell yeah.
build out the collection again and like upgrade everything. But I'm also like, oh, there's this friend that I haven't bought their record yet. I still need to get this record. I need to get
Yeah.
this homie's record, and like they're slowly starting to come in. And like I'm just stoked, kind of like you're saying, just like I'm not gonna miss that $20 or $25
Yeah.
in an X amount of time, but I'm gonna have that record. That one sounds great, and I helped a friend further their career that they can use that
Yes.
money for whatever they need to. So I'm really stoked
Yeah.
on it.
That's
Yeah, for
awesome,
real.
man. Yeah, love that.
I know you guys have CDs in already because you guys have been kind of teasing them. How does it feel to kind of have those now? Like I mean, we're still like a month and a week away from like the release, but like, how does it feel to kind of just have like that at least one form of physical media in your hands already for this record?
Yeah.
Dude, I get weepy. I like it. It feels like because songs are so intangible for so long, right?
Yeah.
Like they exist in your brain first, and then you just sing them in a moment, even before you do a voice memo on your phone or whatever. You
Hmm.
sing them in a moment, and it's just air vibrating. And air is so ephemeral and temporary. It's not, it's not permanent, right? And then you spend all that work to work with your buddies even before you record it further to just like arrange it and write it and make sure that it sounds not to anybody else's taste, but it sounds good to you and your own
Yeah.
ears, right? And then for this record, we actually worked with a producer and we tracked it over the course of like 7 or 8 days where we had demoed everything previously and we even knew like what the sequence of the album was going to be, what songs were going to be on it. We knew our arrangements. We wanted to be really dialed when we actually got into the studio with Dave. And so then you record it over a week and then it's still not real at that point because it exists as files on Dave's computer in an unmixed state, and then you get mixes back and then you get the masters back, and then you thumbs up on the masters and you're like, this sounds sick, this is exactly our vision, what we wanted, it's even better than our vision of what we
Yeah.
like even anticipated it was going to
Totally.
be. And then you spend $300 to print, like 100 CDs or whatever. And it feels like this should not, that's like the most piddly version on the whole chain of the thing. But then you get the goddamn CD in your hand and you're like, why am I getting emotional right now? Because it's now exists in the physical world, It's like, it
Yeah.
doesn't even, it sometimes breaks my heart when bands just do digital only releases.
Yeah.
It's like, man, I need to touch that music, like I
Yeah.
need to like hold it in my hand, look at the album art, read the thank yous and the liner notes, and like
Mhm.
that's at the point where it feels like a real flipping thing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it was really cool to get those. We also got this
Yeah, it's our
Ooh.
vinyl test press. Yeah.
so they sent one for each of us. So we have 5 of these and we listened to all of them in one night.
We listened to the album front to back like five times.
Not all of them were. It was like only one that was close listening, but
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. That was super surreal too, because it feels like there's so many times along the process where you just feel like this isn't gonna happen. I don't know. Maybe
Mm.
I just feel this as like an anxious person where it's just like you just feel how hard it is to like make something, and it just like there's so many variables, so many things that could go wrong, and like there's so many projects that just end up kind of dead in the water. Um, but yeah, it's like insane how I always forget like every single record I'm a part of, whether I'm just like mixing or like playing on it. It's wild how much work it is to like bring something into the world that you're proud of. It's like
Yeah.
wildly hard. So I always like say that like every album is a miracle, like even if it's not good. Like yeah.
I always bring this up of I'm envious of every band in a good way that gets to press anything to vinyl.
Yeah.
Me being a podcast, I should never have anything pressed on vinyl. Like that's a whole other niche that I don't know if I need to go down that rabbit hole. But to
Yeah.
like have a physical media of like something that you put your time and effort into to have it like in front of you, like when you guys get, obviously like you were saying, Nick, like you got the
Yeah.
test presses in, and then next like next big feeling is when you get the full color versions in,
Yeah.
and like it's gonna be a whole nother moment. And like I'm always envious, but in such a good way. Like I'm happy for every band that gets to fucking do that, because not a
Yes.
lot of bands do. And like if you're able to do at least one thing, and you're able to press
Yeah.
it or do something, like take that opportunity if you have a
Yeah.
chance.
Truly.
And
And that's
there's
like one of those things where we truly didn't know if we would ever get to do that. That was kind of like a moonshot kind of bucket list type goal for the band, you know? So
and
it
now
was
to have
cool.
two is
Right.
ridiculous. Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
And even, like I think sometimes bands get into this mindset where like every threshold you get to, your definition of success has to rise with it, and you'll only feel happy then if you constantly get bigger and bigger, which is again capitalism teaches
Dangerous. Yeah.
us to like just always getting bigger.
Yeah.
And the reality is like maybe those Switchfoot shows is the most people that we've like ever would ever play to. And like maybe we, who knows the future? We're really good. We're best friends now, but like bands break up all the time. It's like there's no
Yeah.
guarantee that
Like somebody could move
yeah,
or
I'm gonna
whatever.
die, whatever. you know, like, but like but the
I like your talking pen, by the way.
yeah, yeah. So the reality is that like to have those two records pressed to vinyl, even if like this is the biggest, quote unquote, biggest that we ever get, to be able to show like our god kids or our nephews, or like God willing, if we have kids ourselves, to be able to show them when they're grown up of like, oh, your dad used to be cool, and like, here's the thing, like that's still as sick as
Well,
hell,
it's like
Yeah.
Daniel, our guitarist, his kids like listened to the first, like when we listened to the first test pressing, like his whole family was there, and
Yeah,
Oh hell yeah.
yeah,
yeah.
it was really sweet. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like they think their dad is so cool, and they're right because he is,
100%.
No, yeah, that's an awesome moment. Like to have it, it's cemented at that point. Like
Yeah,
Yeah.
whatever we did in our life, we have this to show for it, and it's here. We at least did this.
Yeah,
yeah,
totally.
Like it's kind of like that the quote from like Days Confused. Like we spent our life, but we did like I'm butchering the quote, but
yeah.
everyone
I know
knows which
what you
one I'm
mean.
talking
Yeah,
about.
yeah.
Like, but just refer that to being in a band and
Yep.
having a physical vinyl.
That's
Yeah.
Or
right.
tapes. Tapes is cool. Tapes are coming back.
Tapes
I need to
sick.
get a tape player now because
Dude, I have a lot of tapes.
Yeah, I'm so the hierarchy of music for me is CD is number one, vinyl is number two, and tapes are third.
CD number one is
Yeah, dude, fuck you,
cracked,
CD's
dude.
number one.
I love that.
No, I didn't actually mean to say fuck you, Nick. That was a joke. That was a bit. I apologize.
No, I agree actually.
Yeah.
CD is well, okay. I don't
Yeah.
know.
So, but here's the thing: CDs actually sound good when you listen to
They
them.
sound amazing.
They sound
They
crispy as
sound
hell.
perfect.
They sound real. That's actually. I listens to the waveforms on my really nice headphones from my phone of the album, and then when I put the CD into my car, the actual CD, it was compressed in a way that was just perfect.
Yeah.
Like it was just crispy as hell.
Yeah, it's
And
so
so
crisp.
yeah, so CDs are number one because they sound good inherently, and they're a digital rip. You're never gonna not have those songs as long as your CD doesn't get scratched. Like you can rip those MP3s anytime you want to.
That's
And
true.
albums that don't exist on streaming anymore, and the only way that they exist is you find a CD of it and then you rip the MP3s and put that in your Apple library or whatever. And that's the
Yep.
only way that that album exists anymore, right?
Dude,
So
yeah, we have like
Back in our day.
shared Google Drive
Yeah.
of lost albums. So like
Yeah.
records that we love that like you can't, they're not on streaming, or kind of like hard to find the MP3s
Right.
online.
Funny enough, it's been a couple years, but I was sitting down. I don't know if you guys remember the band Crucial Dudes from like 2013 ish.
No.
They're
No.
like a pop punk band from New Jersey.
Nice.
Very pivotal. I can't even say the word.
Pivotal. Yes.
Yes. Neck Deep actually got their name from one of their songs.
Oh,
Whole
sick.
Oh, really?
backstory.
That's
but
wild.
I got, yeah, it was crazy. But I was lucky enough to sit down with one of the members a couple years ago,
Sick.
and like they were a band that like I fucked with heavy, and they had like an early EP, and I brought it up during our conversation. He's like, "We don't have that at all anywhere," and I'm like, I guarantee, like
The
I was
band
like,
doesn't have it.
they were like he made it sound like they don't have copies of those anywhere, like digitally or like pressing, like no CDs of it
Dude,
anywhere.
that
And I
is
was like,
how easy that can just disappear.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm pretty sure I have that on my computer right fucking now. Because like there's and like they're like, it wasn't actually like an EP, it was just like demos of stuff that didn't make it to the LP. But like I always listened to it as an EP, and I was like, do you want me to send that to you now? Like, do you want to do something with it? Like, will you
For
do
your
something with it?
archives.
Yeah.
That's wild,
And then
man.
you're a hero. To me, like, we used to talk about digital pirates as like the scum of the earth, but now they're like archivists. They're like basically
Right.
Yeah.
historians of music, right? And so that's why I love the CD. I think cassettes are cool because they're cheap to make. But if you actually listen to them, it's
Dude, okay, so wait, there's some records that I prefer on cassette.
because you
Like,
prefer it to sound marbly and sound bad. Is
I
that what
prefer there's some records that I prefer to sound like more saturated.
Yeah, that's true.
And you get that from the tape.
Yeah.
So
I
don't
I
know.
believe it. I have yet to be convinced of, like, other than the cheapness for the band, because it takes $2 to $3 to make
it is just a vibe and like cost thing.
Yes. Yeah.
Totally.
Well, I'm gonna get canceled because I criticize cassettes and everybody.
Canceled. I'm a cassettes advocate.
Yeah.
Everyone go DM Ben on Twitter and just say, hey, when the tape's coming out?
That's right.
Just let him know.
I'll make the tapes if people want the tapes, but I'm not convinced.
Dude, the Gia Margaret piano record I
Yes.
ripped. There's a bonus track that I think it's on the vinyl as well.
It only exists on the vinyl and on the cassette.
Only
It's
on
not
physical,
the
right?
digital copy. Yeah.
So I ripped it from my cassette deck
Yeah.
and I sent it to the band.
Yeah.
And it sounds so good.
It does sound good. You're
I
right.
love it.
Yeah. Anyways, we're digressing on our digressions.
Yeah.
You're fine. For a lot of people, I got a few more questions and we'll start to. But I mean, unless you guys are pressed for time, then I can always
we're good.
cut stuff.
Ivan.
All right, tight. Me too. Hell yeah. A lot of people, doing an EP is a big thing. Doing an LP is a big thing. Doing an LP2, even bigger thing.
Mm-hmm.
Were there things that you might have learned from doing LP1 that you had to change up for LP2 that like might be good, knowledgeable things for people out there listening?
Awesome question. That's a great question. I would say yes. So I was kind of Jesse and I kind of he did more of like the recording engineer side of it, so like kind of setting up the mics, kind of capturing the sound was kind of more Jesse's world, and then I mixed the record mostly, and he helped with that, with like mostly drums, because he's the drummer, and yeah, I think a lot of the first record we were kind of just like, I don't know, it was just kind of a yes and kind of approach where we were just kind of like just throwing shit at the wall, kind of, and I think you can hear it on the record, and it's like a really cool vibe. Like we were just kind of fearless a little bit, I think.
Yeah.
We're just like, playing with us as a band, we were playing with like electric guitars for the first time and like doing big rock band arrangements. And like it was also kind of quarantine times, so we were like messed up in the studio, just like losing our minds, overdubbing way too many of everything.
We just wanted to hang out, and we would start practice or recording. We'd start tracking at 10 o'clock at night on Thursday, and then track until like 3 in the morning.
So we were just
right?
like night owling it and just losing our minds together, and I don't know.
We started tracking it like Nick said when we basically tracked it. We started tracking it a little bit before COVID lockdown, like kind of early demoing, and then we took a break from recording, and then once we could legally get back together, it was like we were just like we were there, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And so it was just like it was our main outlet. So we didn't want the night to end. So we're like, let's fuck it. Let's we ball, like let's track a sixth rhythm guitar part. So I think on Deliberate Practice is a great example of this,
Yeah.
where there's two acoustics hard panned left and right, so doubled acoustic part. There's two rhythm electrics playing the exact same part, hard panned left and right. And then there's a third electric that is a slightly different guitar tone and
Yeah.
slightly different performance, and all layered together. And that's just my guitar part, which live is one guitar, but on the album it's five guitars.
Dude, talk about beers with bands. That's basically the
Yeah.
thirst track.
But on this second record, we were so precise and so minimalistic almost.
Yeah.
We were just like only what is essential to this thing.
Yeah.
We want to have it.
We were thinking
But
a
do you
lot
think that?
too about like
Sorry, go
how
ahead.
to play stuff live. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. What were you gonna say?
I was just gonna say, do you think it also helped having, you know, it was Dave, right, come in as like
Hmm.
the sixth unofficial member to kind of be like,
Definitely.
hey, maybe don't play six guitars for this one part.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Dave was like, yeah. I think we did feel like some positive pressure to just come in really prepared, and just be
Mhm.
like, we want to be like impressive to Dave, or at least like not embarrassing, like. But then yeah, for example, we like tracked all the guitars through like real guitar amps, and I had like a full pedal board, and like for most of the record I would have on like all these like reverb and delay things, and Dave would be like, I kind of like it better without, and I'd be like, okay. Like I will play super naked here. That's great. And then it actually, I don't know, I think it's probably gonna age better because of it. Like
Mhm.
it's just, yeah, I don't know. He was pretty like just play, like let the amp do the work. He's like, trust me, like the vibe will be cool.
Yeah.
And you don't have to have like all this, you don't have to have everything soaking wet with effects all the time.
Yeah.
So that was like kind of like a little bit scary, but I think ultimately good. Yeah.
I think that's one thing I like listening to an album is it's just like kind of more bare. It's
Mm-hmm.
like you kind of were saying, like it's dry. Like there's not all these pedal effects throughout, and it's just kind of like we came here to make this point, make this story, and here it is. And then you
Yeah.
go see them live, and then that's when you get to experience like kind of
Yeah.
like a B-side version of the album song,
Yeah,
because
totally.
then that's when like Nick can come in and like hit whatever pedals he wants, and there's everyone be like, where the fuck was that in the record?
Yeah.
Like
That's
what's
real,
going
dude. Yeah.
on in like a cool moment.
Yeah, that's real. We just so Nick is a solo artist too. He put out this solo record. Was it earlier this year or last year, Nick?
Last 2023, yeah.
Yeah, 2023. So but Nick has, other than acoustic house shows, Nick has not played a show with those songs.
Yeah.
And so a buddy of ours asked, he was like, I want Nick Weber, but I want Nick Weber full band. And so A Place for Owls is the backing band for this. And on the record, it's mostly like there's some big electric guitars on like two or three songs on the record,
Yeah.
but otherwise it's like pretty minimalistic. It's like post folk music, like
Mhm.
there's just like a minimalism almost to a lot of those songs
Yeah, totally.
that when we play them live, it's exactly what you're describing, Michael, where it's like we're just bringing it, we're dialing everything to 11.
Yeah,
It's so
totally.
it's
We like
loud,
want
it's
it to be a
fun.
treat for folk. Like
Yeah.
when I
Yeah.
go see artists I love, I don't I really truly don't want to hear like a faithful to the record version of it. It's like I have the record and I love it. But if you do something different, that's just like such a treat. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I feel like it's a cool opportunity to do that sort of thing for people. It's like kind of take the expectation and then like subvert it a little bit. Yeah, I think it'll be fun.
Yeah, those shows are always more fun too, because like, especially too, because like, as a band, one, you've been working on these songs for X amount
Yeah.
of years. You recorded it. You've been sitting on it. All your shows recently are going to be playing these songs. So you almost
Yeah.
kind of want that extra outlet of being like, I've played it this way and I've listened to it this way for this many months,
Yeah,
weeks,
totally.
years, or whatever. Like it needs to change. It needs to be. I need to just mess it up, like do something else to make myself
Yeah,
not go insane.
Yeah, that's
totally.
exactly right, man. Are you sure you're not a musician? Because you're basically describing the creative process, my
That's
man.
true, yeah.
Yeah.
I gotta have some sort of street cred around here.
Yeah, that's
Uh, One other question I had, aside from the LPs, is as I kind of mentioned before we started this episode, I was in Denver in July for work.
Yeah.
I'll probably be out there, a couple more times now that I'm in the supervisor position. If I'm
Let's
out
go.
there and like I get a chance to, hit up some local shows, what are some like good venues that you guys recommend that I should be looking out for, or as like your favorite venues to play in Denver?
Mm-hmm.
So, Denver venues are, it's really what you're looking for because Denver has everything from the DIY volunteer run queer
Yeah.
punk venue that
Yeah.
like you're where the weirdest and most beautiful music you've ever heard is going to be at. So that's something like Seventh Circle
Seventh
Music
Circle.
Collective.
But like MJ
Uh,
Lennerman played a surprise show there like a few months ago, so
yeah,
you never know what you're gonna get there.
yeah.
Yeah.
There's also a really sick volunteer run, nonprofit run venue called D3
D3.
Arts.
Yeah.
Yeah, and those are where basically the underground punk shows are.
Yeah.
Okay.
Um, now,
Like people will be slam dancing like if you
yes,
go to a show there, yeah. For
yeah.
sure.
Now, but then there's like, where do I like to see the war on drugs play? In Denver, we of course have Red Rocks. We have Mission Ballroom, which is probably the best room I've
Yeah.
ever heard
It's like
music in.
perfect sound. Yeah.
Yeah, it's everything's absolutely dialed, but that is like you're seeing Death Cab for Cutie or whatever, the biggest
Yeah,
fucking
yeah.
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 Totally.
But then there's this sort of world of like clubs and small clubs. We like to play Globe Hall a lot.
Yeah.
And there's this really sick place that we've never played yet, but we see a bunch of shows there called High Dive, which is an amazing historic
Yeah,
Denver
that place is
venue too.
awesome.
Yeah. So it's really like when you want live music, it's like, are you trying to get a laser light show and the best sound design you've ever heard? Or are you trying to have 20 sweaty punks slam dance
Yeah.
each other, right?
Yeah,
I mean, both
totally. I
sound
would
like
say
good times.
Yeah.
yeah, totally. Like for the smaller side of things, definitely like High Dive. What's the HQ?
Yeah.
Um
HQ sick. Yeah.
yeah, and then like Lost Lake, I feel like some really cool stuff comes through there every once in a while. And then that's like
Yeah.
a really small room.
It's like it fills full with like 60, 70 people in it.
Yeah.
But it's a club where you'll see like touring bands that are not, they're not playing the stadiums yet, but like
Yeah.
they're playing smaller shows. Like national touring bands will come through that.
Yeah.
We are playing at Marquee with Foxing.
Yeah.
Yep.
And
Marquee is sick.
Marquee is sick and it's mixed, it's a metal venue
It's
functionally.
so
Like
fucking
it's
loud.
so it's every band, even if they're like an indie folk band, is mixed like a metal band, which is so hilarious to me.
Yeah.
It's just like it's a wild room, but we're playing there with Foxing. But there's spaces where like there's venues like we played the Ogden with Switchfoot,
Yeah.
16 capacity venue, sold out. I'm never gonna play there headlining, right? Like but we're gonna occasionally, God willing, open up for a really bigger band and play some of
Yeah.
these bigger venues. And so, but we sort of stick to the smaller Skylark Lounge is
Oh yeah, yeah.
that's probably actually Skylark is probably my favorite room in the city, I think.
That's really cool. Yeah.
Yeah. So Skylark got bought by
Nathaniel Rateliff.
Nathaniel Rateliff from the Night Sweats, who is like a Denver music scene OG dude. Even before he broke with the Night Sweats band,
Yeah.
he's been playing in bands in Denver for years and years. And so Uh, Skylark is probably my favorite, not only because it's good, immaculate vibes and it sounds great, great location on South Broadway, but he's a part of an ecosystem that's really trying to be artist centered and really try to.
Yeah,
So a lot of venues in town that do this sort of pay to play, or like they do consignment tickets where it's like you're the only way that you make
I
money
do
is
hate that so much. Yeah.
when you sell pre-sale tickets. And it's just like, even there's like good venues that are good vibes and the staff is awesome, but
Yeah, totally.
for the artist you're essentially getting fucked.
Yeah, the consignment
So
model is
yeah, and
it's a
so
drag.
Skylark I think is becoming my favorite because they try to actually like they just give the door to the artist. That's literally what they do.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And so
And
trying
it's
to
like
do
a weird diner. It's almost like a speakeasy type vibe. It's
yeah,
like you
for
go
real.
upstairs into this space and there's like a bobcat, like a bobcat. It's called the
Lounge.
Bobcat Room,
Yes,
and
yeah.
there's like a taxidermied bobcat, and it's like it's like the Twin Peaks style
Yeah.
floor.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, it's
Yeah.
really cool. Yeah,
It's fucking awesome.
but I would say like Seventh Circle is your like if you want to come into town and like have a shot at seeing like a DIY emo show. That's like that's where we opened for Ben Quad and Forrest on their tour at Seventh Circle. So
Yeah.
that's the spot. It's just a house with like a garage. That's like the kind of the DIY institution of Denver, all ages. You know, it's awesome.
Hell yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I'll keep those in mind for my next trips out to Denver.
Yeah.
Uh, hopefully get to experience some good Denver scene. Like Denver was one spot when we kind of toured. We never were able to get a show in Denver, so we would always kind of like either. I think the one time we just went to Casa Bonita and then stayed at someone's house, but we always had we had better luck in Colorado Springs,
Yeah.
booking
Yeah.
There's a
shows.
really sick punk and emo scene in Colorado
Yeah.
Springs. There's a
Totally.
lot
Yeah,
of if honestly, if you book a show in the Springs and you're a good emo band, there's going to be like 400 kids that just show up for you.
It's
Yeah.
a great scene out there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it really
That's
is.
where Aren't We
I'm kind of
Amphibians
jealous.
played there
Yeah.
on their last tour.
but everyone listening, if you get a chance to go to Denver as well, check out all these venues. Go support the local scene if you get a chance. I'm trying to think. I know we've bounced around a lot, which has been fun. It's been great. I just want to make sure I didn't miss anything between A Place for Owls and How We Dig in the Earth that you want the people to know about.
I think the main thing is the record is we're really proud of and it's really good.
So
And
true.
if uh, if people listen to it and like it, that's great. The main thing that I think the mode that I'm in right now as a human being is that like art and bands and music and a music scene can't just exist to benefit me. It has to be this like communal, reciprocal,
Hmm.
mutual thing, right? And so we just happens to record this record that is really honest about stuff that happened to me, and uh, other people can lean in and be like, okay, cool, I can sort of apply my emotional process to this dude's sort of like story or whatever. The reality is that there's stuff that happens to all of us individually all of the time that needs to be talked about and needs to be
Hmm.
talked about through art and music. And so I think I'm in the mode that I'm just like, probably the main takeaway from my band is like, can you start a band? Like,
Yeah.
can you
Totally.
start? You maybe don't think about yourself as a songwriter or a singer or a drummer or a guitar player or a bassist or a keyboardist or whatever, a painter, whatever. But
Hmm.
like, can you essentially, because you love art, consider, can I write poetry? Can I learn guitar? Can I, like, if our band just exists so that we build the empire of A Place for Owls, that's a fucking
Yeah.
just stupid reason to do music, right? But like,
Yeah. I quit.
if yeah, exactly. But if we can inspire and motivate and encourage other people to be a part of the creative and artistic process themselves, it's just art is good for you. And you making art is good for every person that is in a relationship with you in person or online or whatever. And so that's the main sermon that I think I'm preaching right now at shows and with like trying to talk about the record is just like, so this is my, like to say it in a kind of a cliche way. It's like, this is my story, but like there's shit that's happened to you that needs to be talked about, that you need to process in order to become a more healthy person. And art can be a great way to do that.
Here.
Well said.
Yeah.
Everyone, go listen to How We Dig in the Earth. Go get your vinyls and be ready for everything coming next. We're going to start transition to the later half of this episodes, but before we do that, this is obviously Beers with Bands. You don't have to be drinking on these episodes because I would definitely do that for you, but I know you both have some fine beverages in front of you on this fine Monday. It's only Monday, holy. What are y'all drinking tonight?
I have a New Zealand style IPA, and I don't really know what that entails. But it tastes good. It tastes like an IPA.
It's from Upslope, right?
Upslope, yeah.
Upslope is probably my favorite Colorado. At this point, it's the working man's Colorado brewery. It's just like
They
everything they
use
put out is a
snow.
banger. Yeah,
Hell yeah.
Yeah. The Japanese rice lager that they do
so
is
good.
probably my favorite. Like that is so good.
Yeah.
But this is nice too.
I have a Montucky cold snack, which is if we ever made it big, we would become sponsored by Montucky for the
The
amount of
Deftones beer.
dude, yeah, the white pony. But like for the amount of cold snacks that a place for Owls throws back on any given Tuesday night is a ridiculous amount.
Many.
So,
Yeah, that's
so
guilty
we're
as
drinking
charged.
we're drinking the cold snack.
Hell yeah. And then on my end for this episode, I'm drinking some good old Modelo's because, you can't go wrong. And,
That's right.
they hit well.
They do.
I was going to have some Colt 45s for this episode, but I bought them on Saturday and then proceeded to leave them in the car until today and I remembered it on the drive home. So I was like, well, I can't drink those because they're going to be like just all day sitting in the car warm, which hasn't stopped me before, but it's not always fun to do that. I think if I remember correctly, Ben, you had a Colt 45 story
Oh,
that
okay.
we want to talk about. See how I run. Full circle.
Okay, so
Get it on tape.
one time, my buddy Dave, we were in a band together.
Is this
like,
a spaghetti guy?
this is Spaghetti Guy. All right,
Oh
so
my God.
one time, my buddy Dave, and I love my buddy Dave, and I would die for Dave. Uh, Dave, one time, it's illegal to donate plasma twice in one day, but he figured out
It's also probably impossible.
yeah, he figured out a system where we were all so goddamn poor where they would give you $25 a pop to donate plasma. So he donated plasma and then donated plasma at another clinic and did it twice in one day. Brother shows up with a 40 of Colt 45.
No, dude.
And he proceeds to he bought it with his money from donating plasma. And so he proceeds to start drinking this 40. We had a little just a hangout house dinner party or whatever, and I made spaghetti for everybody. And my roommate was making white Russians. So all all Dave had was he donated plasma twice. He had only had spaghetti because we were so fucking poor. It's probably his only meal of the day, and drank an entire 40 of Colt 45 and probably 2 white Russians. And
yeah, that'll mess you up, brother.
It looked like, I'll just fast forward. I'm not gonna tell the whole story, but it looked like he had just shaken spaghetti onto the backyard, the back porch, because when he had just chucked or whatever,
like dry spaghetti.
It was but it had sat in the sun. We didn't discover it until the next day. And it just sat in the sun, and it looked like he had just thrown the spaghetti had multiplied in his stomach to be more than he even could have ever eaten. Because it was just spaghetti fucking everywhere. And we ended up the sun dried it up, and we swept it up with the
straight noodles.
Oh my God.
You have
And
to
so
tell the what he said though.
oh no, the whole time we're trying to like pat him on the back and be as he's yakking or whatever, we're trying to encourage him and we're just like, it's okay or whatever. And he goes, I'm so sorry. I swear to God, I'll clean it up. I'm so sorry.
And he's
And then
like crawling on the floor.
yeah, we would pat him on the back and he'd be like, don't fucking touch me. Don't fucking touch me. So shout out Dave, everybody.
Shout out to Dave.
Yeah.
Shout out to the gutter punk house.
Yeah. So
That you
as a
heated
result,
with an oven.
I've never been able to look at a 40 of Colt 45 in
No.
the same way since. I just can't touch it, man.
That's fair.
Edward 40 hands.
I support you. I support you.
I mean, I would love to get my hands on a Colt 45 40.
Yeah.
For some reason, all my local liquor stores stopped carrying the 40s, so I have to buy a
No.
24 pack,
No.
which looks a lot less cool when you're
Yeah.
buying a 24 pack of Colt 45s.
Yeah.
It seems like more of a degenerate thing than just
Yeah.
buying two 40s.
It somehow does,
surprisingly.
yeah.
Yeah, like I went through a phase where like I would go to the liquor store and then basically just take all their Colt 45s off the shelf and then just have them in my fridge at home because like, hey,
Yeah.
that's like 3 beers for a night, you know, that's good. And then I started doing, well, I mean, like one bottle, like 140 is about like 3 beers. Not that
Yeah,
I would drink
totally,
three
yeah.
40s in one night.
No.
Yeah,
Ben, I feel like
2
you
is the
need to talk
max.
about your Subway days.
Oh, dude, so I was an assistant manager at Subway and I was so poor. The only food that I got was the free 6-inch sub employee meal every shift or whatever. So I would just go into the walk-in freezer, the walk-in fridge and just pound turkey. Like where there was no cameras in the walk-in, you know, and so like just like this is my only way that I'm surviving my poverty or whatever. That was the same season where we did the spaghetti incident. Yeah.
Good times. Good times.
Yeah. Well, now I feel like we're nice and loose for the last part of this episode. So we're going to talk about some fun times from your time in music, whether they're shows, tours, time recording. As I normally say, they can be anything horrendous to tremendous or any adjective in between.
Yes.
Think about the stories you always reminisce about with your friends.
Oh my
Those are
gosh.
usually the best ones that everyone loves to hear, or at least I love to hear. I don't know who wants to start or how we want to start this, but yeah.
I just immediately thought of the Scott Stapp lotion story.
The lotion, yeah. I feel like, yeah, we have.
So okay, so we played 3 dates with Switchfoot, and the entire time I'm like nervous because I literally learned guitar because of the Meant to Live guitar riff.
I think we need to conceal the identity of the person who told us this story.
I don't think I need to at all publicly.
Probably not. Probably not.
Who cares?
Nobody will ever find
Is
it.
Scott
yeah.
Stapp going to listen to this podcast? You know, who cares?
Or John Foreman.
Yeah.
Be kind of cool. Scott Stapp, you want to come on though?
Yeah, that's right. Beers with Bands.
Open
Creed
invite.
edition.
Yeah.
So
I saw
the
Creed
entire
2
time,
weeks ago.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Go hard, yeah. So the entire time before playing these shows, I'm like, these guys are my hero. I literally I learned to play guitar partially because of this rock band.
Mm-hmm.
They've been so influential. Their music is like stuck with me. Big deal, right? And
Yeah.
the whole time, I'm just because I'm afraid, I'm just gonna be like, they'll probably. What if they're gonna be assholes? What if they're just gonna be big dicks? You know, just like they might be rock stars. You know, like in a bad way. Like they just, you know. But they ended up being the most humble, down.
You're the best, yeah.
Just
Truly
absolute
the best.
sweethearts, and they like hung out with us nearly
They
every
did,
night
yeah.
on that tour. Like we
Like multiple times.
yes, yeah. So that we're just like we're drinking beers and sharing stories with the guys from Switchfoot, and so one of the guitarists in their band or one of their guitar techs or whatever is just like, tell the lotion story. And so apparently when they played with Creed, they had been on tour with Creed previously or played a festival or something. And Scott Stapp just busts into their
like trailer, like their
trailer,
their
yeah.
bus.
And he like literally just pops in and he goes, "Hey guys, you got any lotion?" And and they're all like lotion, okay. And they're like, so disoriented and just like looking around for lotion. They find a bottle of, like Aveeno or whatever, and Scott's like, thanks. And, like he goes pump pump
No,
pump
many
pump
pumps.
pump 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 pump, like an ice cream mound of lotion.
Yeah.
And then he just goes,
Through his hair.
he
Just
runs it.
smears it through his
He
hair.
smears it through his hair. So apparently, the way that Scott Stapp gets his signature sort of greased back
Yes.
look is lotion.
Lotion. Just
fuck ton of lotion.
Yeah, fuck ton of lotion.
Fuck ton of lotion, yeah.
I will literally never forget that. I will take that to my dying day. As I'm like,
My wife just heard me
Yeah,
say that and was like, "What are you talking?"
Just be like, oh, it's okay. We're talking about Creed.
Yeah,
Talking about
right.
Creed.
The rock band, Tallahassee rock band Creed. Yeah.
Emotional rock band Creed.
Illotional. No, but I fuck with Creed heavy. I love that band.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm not trying to. If Scott Stapp ever actually
nothing
does
but
listen,
respect.
I love you, and I don't want you to be offended by anything. I would.
In the How We Dig in the Earth liner notes, we thank Mark Tremonti.
Yeah.
Alongside Mark Trombino and Mark from Blink.
We love the rock band Creed. We love butt rack.
100%.
Yeah.
But yeah, Scott, if you want to come on and confirm if that's how you get the nice greasiness, just hit my people up. My people is me. Hit me up.
Yeah. Directly.
Yeah.
So wait, what was the prompt? Just like the wildest tour?
Yeah, the horrendous to tremendous, like best moments, fun moments, crazy moments that you have in your time of music.
There were so many on our first tour with Celebration Guns. The first tour we ever did.
Yeah.
But I think the one that like comes to mind for me is like Idaho was so crazy. Like the Boise show was so unhinged. Like the first band was like a pop punk band, and the front person was like, he was like maybe Ben's age or something.
Every member of this band was 16 or 17 except for the front man who was like pushing 40. It was like that was kind of weird. It was not a good look.
But then he like, and everything about the show was weird. It was like in a brewery basically, and it was like definitely not a real stage. It was just like a PA kind of setup. But then like there were a lot of parents there, just like or just like parents and like older folks just kind of sitting on the very outside and like kind of, just like 2-person sort of like bar table situation. So it's like just a ring of like Gen Xers, and then like 15 teenagers or whatever. Just like they were like circle pitting and stuff for Celebration Guns, which was fun.
Tell them about the beans.
But the pop punk band, the front man, there was a conspicuous can of like lima beans, just like raw lima beans, sitting on one of the monitors. And then at one point in the set, he just like opened it up and started chugging.
He was like, I haven't had dinner yet. Just hold on a second.
Yeah. So he just starts chugging the lima beans. And then afterwards we approached him. We were like, that was a good bit, man. Like that was pretty funny. And he was like genuinely mad at us. He's like, it wasn't a bit. He's like, I was hungry. And to this day, I don't know. I truly don't know if he was serious or not.
That man should be on some sort of registry of people. Like it was like vibes were weird all around.
Vibes were so wild.
Yeah,
the sad part is he's probably like the one older dude that's like trying to keep the scene somewhat alive. He probably got these kids to learn music.
It's probably super wholesome, and he was like actually starving or something.
Yeah, it's like he was doing the same thing that I did with the turkey in the walk-in fridge.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. But like somebody helped me load into that show, and then they like dropped the pedal board case and broke the pedal board. And um, there was just so much wild stuff at
And
that
there's
show.
the teenagers kept talking, and I literally like started yelling at them, just like because the night had been so weird. I was
We
like,
drove for like 8 hours. Or
yeah,
whatever.
and I was literally like, hey, I'm just trying to talk about a real thing that happened to me real quick. And all these fucking 15-year-olds were just like, I'm at a concert. And I literally was like, if you I was functioning like, if you can hear the sound of my voice right now, you're gonna die one day, and I need you to reconcile with that reality. Just like
It was so
I
unhinged. But honestly,
something,
like good stuff came out of that show too.
yeah,
Like the sound guy was like going through a rough time, and like we
yeah,
really connected with him afterwards, and
yeah.
it was hosted
And
by the Boise Trans Collective, who was
yeah,
like
the
the
Boise
sweetest
Trans
people
Collective
ever.
folks are like so sweet. Like but it was like a sideways night. It was
It
like
was nuts.
we've gone into the Black Lodge or
We were
whatever.
not our best selves that night. Yeah.
We almost quit, like
It was nuts. Yeah, shout out to Boise,
yeah.
Idaho.
Oh man.
We got Taco Bell afterwards, and everyone. I actually had some friends in town that I hung out with, and they dropped me off back at like the car that we were like touring in, and uh yeah, everyone was eating Taco Bell, and they were just everyone was obviously super depressed.
There's nothing worse than sad Taco Bell, man.
Dude, sad
Yeah.
Taco Bell is yeah,
I feel like
down bad.
yeah, I feel like alcohol and Taco Bell are like either in the time of utmost celebration or the time of utmost dejection of like things are
Yeah.
bad or things that are the best they've ever been.
Yes, totally. Yep. Agreed. We survived.
Yeah. You guys made it through and became better people because of it, right?
I'm
That's
sure we
right.
did.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm sure we all learned our lesson.
Yep.
Yeah. I remember, I don't know why, but I'm coming back to this one show. It would have been like I think our main monthly run that we did. And it was like day fucking maybe 3 or 4.
Yeah.
And we're playing somewhere in South Dakota. And I was like, the bill itself should have been pretty decent. It was like us, a couple bands from Minnesota, called Knowledge for Enemy and Pierre, which Pierre's still doing some cool shit.
Oh yeah.
And then there was like this like metal band, and then I want to say like another band, and it ended up just being like bands playing for bands. Like we've all experienced it. It was just like a few people maybe showed up at the door, so we're like, okay, this show's gonna be like whatever. Like we're here to do our thing.
Yeah.
The stage was solid, like 4 feet off the ground, and like it's just you're just watching the other bands play anyways. And
Yeah.
I just remember this metal band. They had a keyboardist, which didn't fit half the time because it's metal. But they were all wearing like their jean jackets and looking hard, and in between songs, kind of how we talked about earlier, where like there was tuning, but like this would make up for any tuning that anyone would have to do because you don't have to do like awkward banter or anything. The guy would just like hit a different setting on his keyboard and just like do dog bark sounds, so it'd be like yep, yep, and just like he did it the first time and we were like, wait, did we just experience what we think we experienced? And then like the next song ended and like he did it again and just hit like different animal sounds. We're like, what the fuck is going on? To it being like the best point of like the entire night.
That's sick. That actually goes so hard.
Who cares
It's like
at that
a
point? Yeah.
Yeah.
experimental noise project. This was dog
It's
barks.
just MIDI samples of dog barks.
That's so sick.
Yeah.
That reminds me of Cloud Nothings one time did a cover of Clocks by Coldplay. And I think there's like I don't know what the context for this was. I feel like it was either a music video or like a real live performance where they just like performed Clocks by Coldplay. And there's a dude on keyboard doing like the dog barks. and it turns into like a noise piece by the end. It's really good. I'll see if I can find it.
That's good.
I mean, other than that, like I remember when we were on tour, like we would always play like really stupid games. Uh, I've mentioned I think all of them on this show before. Like we used to play like Hey Cow, which is basically you just drive down you're going full bore down the interstate and you see a cow, so you roll down a window or any animal. You insert animal name instead of cow, but you see cows and you're like you yell out your window, "Hey cow," and however many turn and look at you, that's how many points you get. But it's like whose line is it anyways? Where like the points are made up and the points don't matter anyways. But
Yeah.
like
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
just kind of the goal you go for. And then we would also play what are the odds, and just do stupid shit to each other the entire time.
Yeah.
I remember one time I want to say like upstate New York. Just got done playing a show where we had gone into like a Taco Bell or something and like we're ordering food and someone got asked like what are the odds like you'll eat that receipt right now. Like he had just ordered food, got asked if he would eat the receipt. He lost, so he had to eat the receipt. And there's just like these two people that are standing behind us in line. It's got to be like 11 o'clock midnight at this Taco Bell, and they're just like, "What the fuck are you guys doing?" And we're like, "Oh, we're playing What Are the Odds?" So we had to like explain it to them,
Yeah.
and then they thought we were less crazy. But yeah. And then I've watched. I bring this one up every once in a while because it's always funny to me. Tyler Sancho from Stars Hollow. We got him
Yeah.
to basically beer bong a Four Loco out of a Pringles can, like not a Pringles can, but it was like the Lay's, like those harder plastic
Oh yeah,
small
totally.
stack ones. He did a Four Loco out of that after like finishing gifts. It was dumb and stupid, but yeah, we got him to do it.
Is this the caffeinated Four Loco from the before time?
No,
This
Right.
was
no.
like the
This
yeah.
was the now times.
Okay.
Because shout out to the caffeinated Four Loco during my during my
Happy birthday, bro.
yeah during my uh time of pounding turkey in the walk-in freezer.
Yeah, brother was also pounding Four Locos.
Dude, the only money that I would spend would be on two Four Locos and like maybe a takeout box of like chicken or whatever. Like, that'd be my entire afternoon and evening. We did sort of we had 3 separate overnights on our West Coast tour with Celebration Guns, and just because we were poor planners, and so we just literally got almost no sleep. So we're delirious driving through. I don't
Just had
even
to drive through the night. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, but like I don't remember where we saw corn, but every time we would see corn
Oh, it's
husks,
like
stalks,
Pomona.
yeah, we would just all chant corn, 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 corn. So we'll just occasionally when we're like with each other,
Yeah,
we'll
that's
just
a running bit.
something will trigger. We'll just all chant corn.
It is worth it for the bits. Ryan
Yeah.
we got back to Denver because Ryan, like our bass player, can't fall asleep in the car.
He just can't.
Yeah, like he's incapable. So he was like the designated driver basically because we were doing these like overnight drives.
I think he was clinically insane by the end
Yeah.
of it.
So at the final show in Denver, we played like a homecoming show in Denver on the last night of tour. And Ryan, I just learned this like a month ago. But Ryan was like, "Did I ever tell you guys that at that last show, I was looking at like the person like in the farthest back of the venue and I could hear what they were saying from the stage."
He was like hallucinating.
He was like having auditory hallucinations.
Either that or he had superpowers all of a sudden, man.
Who's to say? I don't know. That poor guy. I think we literally took years off of his life because Ryan is
We destroyed
like
him.
20 years older than me.
Yeah.
We're like almost a 3-generation band, by the way.
Ryan could be your dad.
Ryan could be my dad. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway.
Anyway.
I mean, it's nice. It's like on the plus side though. Like it's nice to have someone that can't fall asleep in the van because like I remember like on the last run we did, we had a show fall through. We played like New Jersey and then we were supposed to play New York, but we had a
Yeah.
show fall through in New York. So our friends in Centerfolds from Richmond were like, "Hey, we have our album release show. Just drive
Yeah.
back down after the New Jersey show." And we're like, it's like in theory it was a tight because homies, that we
Yeah.
got to see and hang out with more. But the only downfall was the day after the Richmond show, we were supposed to play Toronto. So,
Oh.
so we got done with the show. I went immediately to the back of the van to go sleep because I knew I had the morning drive. Everyone else went and finished off all the weed and then took off driving north. And I wake
Because
up in
you
a
can't have the weed going through Canada. Is that what it is?
yeah, just crossing the border.
Yeah. Yeah.
So like they smoke it all there, and then they get us to. I wake up somewhere in like Pennsylvania in like a grocery store parking lot, and so I kind of get up, go inside. I think it was a Walmart. Go inside, kind of get my bearings, use the bathroom, grab something to eat. A couple of guys wake up, and one guy's like, "Oh, I'll stay up with you," like since it's like 9 at 8 in the morning or whatever, daylight. And I was like, "Cool." So like we start driving. Everyone else is still asleep. Him as my co-pilot. I love this dude to death. He fell asleep, and then I had no one to talk to, and I
Ooh,
was like, "Fuck."
that's
I'm the
dark.
only one awake. It was at least night out. I
Everyone's
mean,
lives are in my hands.
yeah, and then like I'm just like doing that like
Yeah.
barely awake. I haven't been
Yep.
awake long enough. Nod, and I was
Totally.
took the first exit, and I was like, "Yo, you got to get back. Someone else has to
Yeah.
wake up and like hang out with me. Like we're not
Yeah.
making it to Toronto for
Absolutely.
not."
Dude, that is so rough.
You survived
Yeah,
it. You learned your lesson.
we should have learned our lesson like the two tours before that because we drove from like Wyoming to Kansas, which is like the most boring drive because you go
Oh
through
yeah,
South
that
Dakota,
is
Nebraska,
rough.
and then Kansas.
Yeah.
Um,
Totally.
yeah, I lost how many days we did that drive. We did it all in one day, but I lost days. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Totally. There's nothing. Yeah.
Yeah,
Absolutely nothing. Yeah.
that
I
show was
can feel
also
it.
trippy because like we got the GPS was like take this exit, and we took the exit. There's nothing on this exit in Kansas, and then it's like take a left, go over the overpass, and it was just straight gravel roads. And I was like, dude,
Oh.
I turned to like our guitar player, and I was like, because he booked the tour, and I was like, dude, if we all die right now, I swear to God, man.
Yeah.
Uh,
Just on a gravel road in Kansas.
yeah, we end up getting there. And it's like it's a house show. They basically took two flatbed trailers, put them together, and it was a kick-ass show.
That's
And I was like,
sick.
okay, hell
Dude,
yeah, we
there's
did
nothing to
die.
do out there. The kids are gonna come out. Yeah.
Yeah, it was great. And then we slept through a tornado at a Walmart parking lot.
Jeez. Ah, memories. That's so sick. That's what y'all toured with Stars Hollow?
Yeah, um, so I'm originally from Iowa, and so I've known Tyler from Stars Hollow and Stars Hollow in general,
Yeah.
uh, since its like beginning.
So cool.
So we were all from the same like scene growing up.
That's really sick.
Yeah,
Cool. What a band.
yeah, it's sick to see like what they're doing now.
Yeah.
Like seeing homies get W's is always sick. Like when they got the offer to go to Japan, I was like, holy shit, like that's
Yeah,
fucking
dude.
amazing. Like they deserve the world.
That's beautiful. I feel like a lot of those bands are like finally getting their shine. Like I don't know what they're almost like in that kind of revival kind of niche. Like
Yeah.
but it feels like a lot of those bands are like finally starting to get their shine,
Well, and
which
Oh
so
yeah.
is really cool.
half of them broke up before they could
Yeah.
actually like actually get any traction or whatever. So it's really sick to see a band that is still together
Yeah.
finally get some notice.
Yeah.
Totally. Like I remember the videos of that the like indoor skate park show
Mm.
that like equipment played too. I can't remember where that venue is. It's so
I th-
cool though.
I think that's either
Mm.
Milwaukee or Madison because
Yeah, it's
uh
some
'cause-
Midwest
yeah.
situation. But like that show looked so insane and like they were like I think the headliners, right? Basically. Um but it just looked wild and like kids were there for Stars Hollow and it's super sweet to see.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I think it's either Milwaukee or Madison, but basically it's Wisconsin that just has like all these shows popping off because like
Yeah.
Amway played the same show and like
Yep.
just seeing all the footage from those like I need to get over there. Like there's a possibility that I'll go to Homie Fest this year since I mean it's only like a
Yeah.
short 4 hour drive, but
Yeah.
uh But
Brother,
yeah, it's so
for
sad.
Colorado and the western states, a 4 hour drive is like we would do
Yeah.
that at the drop of a hat. Like
Oh yeah, I know.
That's true.
and most scenes are like 8 hours away from us. Like, yeah. So
Yeah.
I'm not trying to guilt you into going to Homie Fest, but I think you have an opportunity that I personally don't have.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
no, I feel you because I do the same thing to all the bands that I talk with from like the East Coast. They're like, "Oh
Yeah,
yeah, we
bro.
did this whole tour. We just had to drive like 3 hours every day." And I'm like, "You don't do that in the Midwest. You drive a minimum 6 to 8 hours,
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
exactly.
you're half an hour late to load in, no matter what you do, but you're
Yeah.
still driving 8 hours."
Yeah, for
Yep.
real.
Exactly. I would love to make it out to like some of the fests next year. I don't know. We kind of missed all of them
Yeah,
this past year.
Connor was sweet enough to invite us to Fochella, and we said yes, and then like actually thought through the logistics of how are we going to get out to Bowling Green, Ohio,
Yeah, and
and
one of us was totally booked up.
yeah, yeah. So
So
it just didn't work out. So I think we would
I would
love to.
love to make that happen.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That just seems like such a sweet time.
Yeah, I haven't been to Coachella either, so don't feel too bad. But yes, there's a lot of bands that I hope get the chances to like do all these fests. I really loved your one Instagram post, by the way, of like, "Hey, we're festing, Ren festing."
yeah.
Instead,
So Daniel, our guitarist, he's got three boys who are 12, 10, and 8, and they are really hardcore into Lord of the Rings and other fantasy stories. And so the Colorado Renaissance Festival is a big deal. It's like church to them, you know. And
Yeah.
so
oh yeah,
so we all Dan's whole family and then me and my wife, we like dressed up as wizards and pirates and whatever, and we did it big at the Ren Fest this year. It was our second year. I've met Link from Legend of Zelda twice, and that was
Sick.
like meeting Paul McCartney for me,
Big if
basically.
true.
I was like, thank you so much, Link, for
Everything you've done for me.
everything you've done for me.
Yep.
oh man. No, that's awesome. Especially like being having kids that are so down into that. Like, I've never been a big like Renaissance festival person, but here it's also like a big deal. Like with the Ren Fest that we have in Minneapolis, that like one of these years I'm probably gonna go and spend way too much money drinking mead and just like getting fucking hammered for no reason.
Well, it's
But we'll
the
see.
meat's good, but what you really want is the turkey leg and like the bacon wrapped steak on a stick or whatever. It's like
Ooh,
there's
yeah.
ridiculous. It's we basically the Ren Fest in Colorado is like cash only at all the food and beer. So we just basically withdraw like $150 to just go hard like all day on food and drink. It's a good time.
That's the way to do it.
Yeah.
You know, as we start to wind down, like I gotta say, like this has been a great time talking with both of you. You know, a lot of laughs. I'm stoked that, like I said, I'm stoked that we finally were able to do this.
Yeah, same.
Like happy to check this one off the list that I have over here secretly of everyone that I need to have on. Um,
Yeah, man.
before I get to my final question to end off the night, I know LP2 is fresh out by the time this episode comes out for everyone.
Mhm.
Do you have any plans to kind of do any runs or anything to kind of help with it? I know obviously you have the album release show, but is there anything coming up after this that people should be aware of?
I wish I could say that we've got these amazing secret plans to do some things that are going to blow your mind. But the reality is that like touring is more and more expensive, and for some of these, like if we're booking a DIY tour, it's just hard to figure out how to make that financially not just a money sink or whatever.
Yep.
And we're all, like we're all in our 30s, and we're trying to just like work jobs and have families. And so going on tour is always like a honey, can I, what do you think about what if I was gone for 10 days and I just took vacation off of work the whole time, and also you took care of the kids the whole time? You know what I mean? Like those are the conversations that we're having, right? And so we are gonna be doing some in lieu of like some tour dates. Now, if there's any sick big bands that want to take us on tour, we will go.
Big bands that are listening.
Big bands that are listening.
Scott,
We
if you're still listening.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Scott,
Scott.
please, for the love of God, Scott Stapp, please, Mr. Creed.
Mr. Creed.
Mr. Creed, Reverend Creed. If there are like opportunities to do like weekender dates with some bigger projects or like short runs with like big bands, we would definitely love to do them. But as far as like booking our own stuff, it's looking less and less like that's just going to be something that makes sense. Which is a bummer, but we're trying to figure out creative ways to still like connect with people. So we're like talking about doing um like a song by song podcast about like every song on the album and just really doing a deep dive on like here's what the song's about, here's what writing and recording was about, here's what the sort of song philosophically is even talking about. And just kind of giving more opportunities to like really connect with people even if it's online.
Mhm.
But yeah, I wish there's part of me that's just like I fucking love live shows and I love the few opportunities that we've had to go on tour have just been some of these like my best memories in the world. So maybe we'll pull something together for after album release, but if we don't, that's okay too.
Uh, well, be ready, everyone that's listening. We'll talk links in just a second. Uh, but I like to also leave these episodes off on a high note. Since you just kind of bummed everyone out, since you're not going to go on tour, come back. Um, uh, so my final question to the two of you before we take off is: from your time in a place for owls, what has been your favorite moment that you've experienced so far?
Hmm.
I think some of those 3 in the morning we're recording LP1 nights, I'll never forget. Just the amount of loopy and goofy that you get into. And it was
Mhm.
also at a really precious time in COVID, like post-COVID lockdown, where just like you're desperate for some time with your brothers. And you're really, really like appreciative of like real human connection or whatever. And
Mhm.
so we were just, I like I said earlier, it's like we probably tracked that sixth guitar just because we didn't want to stop hanging out.
Yeah,
Uh,
totally.
yeah, so I think having an opportunity to record together is like stuff that just like there's nothing that tops it, man.
Yeah. That would pretty much be mine, but I don't know, listening to the test pressings was really sweet. That was like a I don't know. To to be listening to like a physical product and it's like done and it's like we're all really proud of it. That was really cool. But now I'm also remembering times on tour where we like there was tension and but then we had like some of the most heightened moments of tension, but also like some of the most heightened moments of like closeness where it's like,
Mm.
oh, we can get through that and just be it's like I remember at the end of tour when we were just like beat to all hell and just like the most tired we'd ever been. And we were like, I think Ben commented, he was like, I think it's like, I still love you. He's like, I'm actually sad to, when we piled out of the car, it was like, I'm sad to like say goodbye to you guys. And that was like a cool feeling to feel where we weren't sick of each other at the
We like
end of
texted
this
each
thing.
other. We texted each other the next morning. Was like, what are you doing? Do you want to continue this? Like,
That was just a cool realization where it's
yeah.
like, yeah, I don't know. For us, like we would kill the band before we would like destroy our friendships or whatever. So
Yeah.
that was a cool moment of realization where it's like, oh, this is the thing that's like the kind of the engine behind the whole thing is like our just the bond we have. So that was a cool moment of like it's like we road tested it and we survived. And we
Yeah,
still love each other,
if a band can make it through a tour where they're like especially like a DIY one where like you're not
Yeah,
getting hotels all the time and you're stuck in the van all the time with each other, you grow
exactly.
so much more. Like I've been in like the dudes I ran with, there was moments where we had freakouts, and like
Yeah.
now I can say like the dude I had the freakouts with, I mean, fuck, we started this podcast together. Like we were that
Yeah.
close now. Like we're before that we were just like we were close, but we weren't like that close. And now
Yeah.
we're like
Yes.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Real.
absolutely. Yeah. You found the it's like you found out what your relationship was capable of. You like
Yeah.
yeah, that's cool.
Well, those are all special moments. I'm stoked to hopefully hear maybe the next time you guys come back on when we talk about LP4 or 5 or whatever
Sick.
one you're on, as to what moments might be your highlighted moment then, or all the fun shenanigans that you guys have gotten into since this time.
Yeah, man.
If anyone's looking for a place for owls, merch, music, or how we dig in the earth, where can they find it?
Bandcamp.com/a place for owls or a placeforowls.com. You'll be able to get all of our merch, shirts, CDs, vinyl, etc., etc.
Well, everyone listening, make sure you go, depending on where you found this episode, whether it's Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, X, Threads, or you watch the YouTube version and got to see their lovely faces like I did tonight. Make sure you check the hyperlinks down below. Go follow them on all the socials. Be ready for new music, new merch, possible tours, shows. Go get a copy of the vinyl, or get a CD. And then don't forget to DM Ben for those tapes.
That's right.
People don't forget. And just be ready for everything A Place for Owls in the future. One last big thank you to Nick and Ben for taking the time out of their Monday to sit down
Thanks, Michael.
with
Yeah.
me.
Thank you.
Like I said, this is a great time. I'm stoked that we finally got to do this,
Yeah.
and it's been good. It's been great.
Thanks, man.
Hell yeah.
Loved this. Yeah. Thanks for having us on.
Of course. Everyone, go listen to A Place for Owls, and I'll catch everyone on the next episode. See ya.
Bye.
Beers with bears.